Roll call. Mr. Venus,
Present.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Here.
Mr. Lombardo,
Here.
Ms. McDermott, here, Mr. McGinley,
Present.
Mr. Mitchell,
Here.
Mr. Perry,
Here.
Mr. Thornton,
Here.
Mr. Urban.
Here.
Mr. Lovett.
Here.
Ms. Radel,
Here,
all present.
do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed? Agenda is adopted. We have public comment on the agenda item only. First, I have Alyssa Casaro.
Thank you, County Council. I have here 9 reasons why the Runback ballot sorter should not be approved. Number 1, recently the Luzerne County Board of Elections and Registration has been relegated to a supervisory role at best, with the majority of its powers being taken away with the stroke of a pen, completely violating Title 25, the Pennsylvania Election Code, with the insane notion that the Luzerne County Charter and Administrative Code somehow supersede state law. But I will state publicly that this should have been presented to the board. Number 2, do the people of Luzerne County need another reason to question our election process? They are already doubting the sanctity of the vote and do not trust our process. Number 3, from what I understand, currently TriTech holds patents to these machines, but the patent on the ballot duplication machines are held by Kevin Runback. I have them if anybody wants copies of them, I can email them to you. Number 4, we may not need it in 2 years. The change in state leadership will change in November with a new governor. We may or may not have mail-in voting in the future, which could cause us to have a $500,000 doorstop. We could, number 5, we could actually save a great deal of money by paying workers $100 for the day. I know that many of the citizens of Luzerne County could really use that money right now. By hiring temporary workers for the day, we are actually helping the people and providing a little bit of money just before Christmas. Number 6, the grant money hasn't even come in yet, and our bureau is already spending it without knowing how the grant money will affect our budget. There isn't even a line item for it. Number 7, unless that has changed in the past few days. Number 7, Runback sorters have had a number of problems, including ripping and tearing ballots, sometimes in half, and not properly reading barcodes. 22,000 barcodes on ballots printed by Runback themselves were rejected in Tarrant County, Texas, and they needed to be sorted and opened by hand. This was reported by CBS, just in case somebody thinks it's a conspiracy. I can send you that article too. Number 8, why is this being rushed through? If Runback is unable to provide the machine in a timely manner, then one of the other companies would be happy to provide them in time for the November election period. By the way, TriTech will be fully integrated with the Sure system by the end of this week. For anybody who doubts that, you can certainly call him. Number 9, possible future litigation. This is not sole sourced and does not qualify as such. One only has to glance at the county purchasing code to know that.
Thank you.
For these reasons, I respectfully request that you deny this.
Mr. Rabel?
Good evening, or should I say good afternoon. With respect to this Runback voting machine, I strongly urge, for the sake of our election process and the trust in our election system and how our voters see our elections, to please deny this, at least until there is a full public hearing and a demonstration of this machine to the public to see how this would benefit the election bureau and how it would operate, just like we had when the election or when the voting machines were introduced, and there was a public demonstration and all that, and there was a public hearing, and it was a great process. And also, I would question as to why it was, as as Ms. Fusera said, about the process being rushed through. The purchasing process was implemented and put into place in 2014. And 2 of the council members who were on that first council were here for that. And they know how long it was, the many meetings there was to hash that out. And it was put in place. And if you read, all you have to do is read the definition of sole source in there. It says an award for a commodity or service which can only be purchased from one supplier, usually because of its technological, specialized, or unique character, or an award for a commodity or service to only one supplier, which is determined by the purchasing manager, or county council, that due to the intended use of the item or service is in the best interest of Luzerne County to purchase from only one source. So I would like to know how that came about. Did the purchasing manager sign off on it in writing as per the purchasing manual sent to from the deputy election director to the purchasing manager and to the county manager, looked over by the Office of Law? Did that happen? And is there documentation on that? Because if there is, I'd love to see that. And I will be filing a right to know request to see that. And also, why does it cost double the amount, nearly $500,000 for Luzerne County, when Lancaster County and Lehigh County are getting it for half the price? Now, I understand, I looked into this, and it's only the first year warranty, but we're purchasing all 5 years. Why is that necessary? And why wasn't that negotiated? I mean, if the other counties in our state and also in Texas and in Georgia and in Arizona did, where was our county manager in all this? That's a good question. I'd like to know. And also with respect to the state law, I'll finish up. So that's why. And also the last thing is, how are you going to change the rules in the middle of the game? Okay, I'm finishing up. All right, thanks.
Gary Bush. And is the municipality Drums? Is that what that says?
I'm actually Sugarloaf Township.
Okay.
The physical address is Drums.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. Most of this is, again, over and over the same notes that almost everybody has. The price tag of the machine, $491K, huge amount for Luzerne County. And upon further review, Runbeck had the same machine to other counties. It not comparable to the prices they had. We're paying much more. Also, there was 2 counties in Texas, Houston, one large county near Houston and a large county near Dallas, that we had problems, as they had said, with the machines tearing up ballots. There was like 22,000 ballots, and therefore they got rid of the machines and fired the people that were running them. Number 2, there are comparable machines from other companies that are much more cost effective. And the third one is, it's important to note that the grant is not paying for this machine right now. It's Luzerne County funds are being used, and the administration says they will reimburse the county when they receive the grant, if they receive the grant. Number 4, a major concern of this is that the item is not being put out for bid by competitors. This poses a major litigation issue from companies who were excluded, such as Tritech, can come back with litigation to sue council because they weren't allowed to participate in the process. This machine is not a single source. Research done by members of the election board, there are other options available. The machine has a history in other counties of problems concerning malfunctioning issues, specifically shredding of ballots, hence the counties I mentioned. Machines from this company have the capacity or capability to use ballot replication software. This is a dangerous field that should not be used in tabulating votes, and the public needs to be assured that this specific machine does not have these capabilities. The election board never approved by vote of its members the need or desire to have the Bureau of Elections even look into this problem, let alone make the actual purchase. And according to PA Title 25 election law, it's the duty of the election board to authorize the purchase of election equipment to be sure the equipment is authorized by PA state laws regarding conformity. And last, like I said, it's being rushed in, it's not accepted as necessary, cannot be assured of future demand because of the elect, we don't know how the election is going to turn out. Has not been fully vetted in comparison with competitors' models, and it has a questionable price tag. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. Mr. Griffith?
I'm here to address the county council regarding the budget approval for the purchase of the mail-in ballots sorting machine from the Runback Company for almost $500,000. There are several issues that must be considered by county council prior to making this decision to spend the taxpayers' hard-earned tax dollars. The grant can be used to pay temporary workers, and this would put funding in the pockets of residents of the county instead of the pockets of the out-of-state vendor. I want to be clear that I'm not against the need for the mail-in ballot sorting machine. I am concerned about the timing of the purchase as well as the procedures being used to make such a large purchase. As the county controller, I'm tasked to be the eyes and ears of the people of our county and wonder why we waited until now to make this purchase when mail-in ballots have been here since the primary in 2020. The issue of staffing was a problem then, and no one from the board or the Bureau of Elections issued any concerns to the previous county manager. Yet now we have to purchase this machine or the election process and counting of ballots will be in grave danger. Why secure a 5-year contract for mail-in ballot sorters when in a few months there's a national and state election, which could result in mail-in ballots in Act 77 being totally eliminated in Pennsylvania by the legislature? Would the vendor place a termination refund clause in the contract that allows the county to get out of the contract if Act 77 is abolished? The other question is why authorize the Bureau of Elections to violate the county purchasing policy, Pennsylvania state election law, and the county home rule charter by not having this equipment document approved by the county, by the Board of Elections prior to being placed on the county council agenda for approval. The Runback Company is not the only vendor, and therefore is not sole source. Election integrity is critical, and the people in Luzerne County already have a skeptical view of this county's processes and the way we handle elections, from the placing of mail-in drop boxes without security, the purchasing of Dominion voting machines, destruction of military ballots, and now this last-minute purchase of mail-in ballot sorting equipment. This county can and should do much better to show the people of Luzerne County that their government is not a playground for the politically connected, but is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And we as elected officials responsible to good stewards of taxpayers' funding can be trusted with the integrity of the election process. This company will possibly require us to also use their ballots and envelopes, which is another concern for the controller's office, where we now have a vendor who is our current vendor for ballots and envelopes, and we'll have to switch to another vendor, and that's not up to contract. That is something that they can purchase on their own without approval from council, which cost the county almost $250,000 for ballots and envelopes. And it's a real concern for me to see this process going on. I would strongly urge council to vote this down for litigation purposes on the contract and for the fact that we don't know what we're going to have in another year. If we have an election in November that gives the state legislature the ability to eliminate Act 77, we will be stuck with this piece of equipment and not have a use for it. So I urge council to vote no on this proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Any other members of the public here that wish to talk on the agenda item? All right, we have some people on the Zoom. Vivian? Vivian, you're muted.
Vivian, you have to unmute.
Okay, you got me now?
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. If you could just state your name and the municipality you reside in.
Sure, it's Vivian Kreidler-Lucina. I'm from Luzerne. I live in Nescopeck Township in Luzerne. I am calling in about the machine that wants to be ordered. I'm a little concerned. First off, for the past 3 voting things we have used, our own people have done this. From what I understand, there's only between 5 and 7 people that have gone at 7 o'clock in the morning and worked till midnight and got all these votes counted. Why not give people in Luzerne County an opportunity to earn some money, whether it's $100 a day for the day or $16 an hour? The total would be about $6,000 to pay 20 people to come in and count these votes. Not that hard. The other thing I have an issue with, it's $491,000 that this Beth Gilbert McBride wants the county to put the money up front, which is county taxpayer money, and then politely said that when the grant comes in, maybe they'll reimburse the county. This machine is not needed. Let the people have a day of work and, earn a little extra money. It's time now that Luzerne County Council starts doing the right thing and letting, helping the people of Luzerne County. Let them work a couple hours a day, earn a little bit of money so they can go buy their kids school clothes and school supplies instead of, wondering where they're going to, if they go and buy this, where their next meal is going to come from. And, I hate to say it, but there is an election in November and we may not have this. So what he is going to do, put it in a corner, let it sit collecting dust and have to pay $35,000 a year for the next 5 years because you're signed into a contract. And I must agree, there are other places out there that have these machines at a cheaper price and you need to get a bid. Nobody voted on this machine in the borough and the board of elections. Yous need to accept bids. If not, I can see Luzerne County being sued by these other companies who did not get a chance to bid. You know the law. Anything over $25,000, it must go through a bid process. And also, there's an election next year for city councilmen. You just want to keep your position. I could just suggest you start doing your job correctly. Thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Denise Davis? Denise Davis, your hand's raised. You're muted.
We go. Hello, my name is,
There you go.
yes, the unmute thing didn't come up. Denise Davis from Black Creek Township. I oppose these machines for the same reason as everybody else says. I don't understand what the hurry is, being that maybe we will have a different administration coming in January. We may not even have mail-in ballots. The price tags, I oppose that. I don't know why we would spend this money at this moment until we find out what's going to happen in the future. The other counties have had problems with malfunction, and there should have been a bid to check out other companies. And also, if we get the machine, we may have to get the ballots in the envelopes, and that could be controversial too if you do some research. That's all. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Deborah Jordan? Deborah Jordan? Is it working? Are we? Okay. Ms. Jordan, we can't hear you, so we're going to move on to the next person. Robert Thornton?
Yes, hello. Testing, 1, 2.
We can hear you.
Thank you. Let me first remind Attorney Skeen that he also has
Please
a
just
fiduciary
state-
responsibility to the county
municipality.
council, as he
Mr.
does
Thornton,
represent them as well. In the
Mr.
past, he
Thornton, we
cried
need the
wolf and
municipality
advised, you're going to
reside in."
get sued in order to affect a certain council action. Well,
Mr.
council is
Thornton,
definitely going to get
excuse me.
sued if they violate the
Excuse me,
law and
Mr.
mistakenly
Thornton.
vote for the Runbeck equipment under the guise
Can
of
you not
sole
hear me?
source, under a created and
Thornton.
orchestrated emergency.
Mr. Thornton.
I'd also remind
Mr.
council
Thornton.
that there is stare
Mr. Thornton.
decisis precedent that all
Can
11
you mute
council
him?
persons can be sued personally.
Please. Mr. Thornton, before you continue speaking, we need the municipality that you reside in. We'll move to the next person. Mr. Thornton, we'll come back to you. Rick Davis?
Hello, my name is Rick Davis and I'm from Black Creek Township. I too oppose buying this machine. Again, for the reasons same as the other ones. For one thing, it hasn't gone through the election board process as per Title 25. And again, too, it hasn't been put out for bids. So other companies wasn't advertised or put out for bids. So other companies that have like machines can't even have a chance in this process. It's well over the threshold of the amount of money that needs to be put out for bids. Again, the price tag of $491,000 compared to other counties is $250,000. And has anybody looked into the problems that other counties have had with these machines? These machines come with a history of having quite a few problems, shredding ballots, and they do have the capability of duplication, which is very scary. And again, too, I'd like to know why this process is being rushed. And like, what happens if the grant money doesn't get awarded? If the grant money doesn't get awarded, then the taxpayers have to foot this bill for a machine that might be done as of this November, after this November's election. So I strongly suggest that we do not buy this machine. I'm urging council, do not buy this machine, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. We'll go back to Mr. Robert Thornton. Please state the municipality you reside in, and then you can have your public comments.
Hello, Robert Thornton testing. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you state the municipality you reside in, please?
Yeah, West Pittston, Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Thornton.
She asked you what municipality you reside in. You said West Pittston.
It wasn't.
Don't.
Go ahead.
That's someone else.
Fine. I reside 17th.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes, I'm trying to unmute. I'm not that IT savvy.
We can hear you. We can hear you. You're unmuted.
Yes, I'm trying to mute.
You don't want to speak? Okay. Peter Ouellette?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Seems we find ourselves in a bit of a catch-22. First of all, I don't
Your
think.
municipality?
I'm sorry, Pittston City. We find ourselves in a situation where the board clearly should have had time to review this or competitive machines and voted on it before this funding. However, we find ourselves in a catch-22 where grant money is contingent on being able to complete vote counting the evening of the election. I don't see that being as physically possible from my experience on the board and observing elections from the inside. In all cases, I just don't see it being possible that we can count the votes in a general election in one evening without this machine. I'm not making a judgment as to whether we should buy the machine or not. I just think the standard procedures should have been followed. The grant money seems to me to be like a sort of a bribe. And I just want the council to consider all those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ouellette. It looks like Deborah Jordan still has her hand up. Did you want to try to speak again, Ms. Jordan? We couldn't hear you last time. Oh, it looks like you're on the phone. If you dial *6, that will unmute you. Try *6. Okay.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for, oh, yes, Deborah Jordan, Sugarloaf Township. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to have this meeting tonight. The concerns of the Runback machine purchase are a few that I need to speak about. The purchase, I believe, is being overly rushed. I don't believe it's widely accepted as necessary by all of the taxpayers of our county. I don't see how the product has been accurately gauged against its competitors. The product from my research has found faulty mechanisms, which I have found concerning, which I can forward to everybody the links to that. But the most concerning thing I'm going to pose as a question to everyone on the board and everyone listening. If I told you that the owner of Runback voter machines was a campaign contributor to Trump's presidential campaign, or that he regularly contributed to Win Red and to the Republican Senate Committee, would you feel comfortable? And would you have confidence in backing the purchase of this machine? You don't have to answer, but what I am going to tell you is that the owner of Runback has actually made a plenitude of campaign donations to the Biden for President campaign, Act Blue, and the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. As a taxpayer and as a Ballot Security Committee member, I do not feel comfortable or secure in the confidence of the purchase of this machine from this company. And I do emphatically urge you to vote no on this purchase. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Are any other members of the public? Okay, I have some emails that were asked to be read into the minutes. Please approve the election council's request to use grant monies to purchase ballot counting machines. The Trump cult's attempt to subvert our elections cannot be allowed. Respectfully submitted, Pastor West Poole, Kingston, PA. Next one is from Rebecca Elfman, Kingston, PA. Please approve the election council's request to use grant money to purchase ballot counting machines. This will increase public trust in our voting process and use election workers' limited time wisely and efficiently. Next one's from Nancy Zola, Luzerne County resident. Oh, she did not have. Looks like Hazleton. Okay. This comment is in reference to tonight's agenda regarding the ballot sorting system. I implore you not to purchase the ballot sorting system. It's an obscene and unnecessary use of $490,500 taxpayer dollars, while the money paying for the system is from a $1.04 million state election integrity grant the county expects to receive in early September, according to the article. Luzerne County Council to vote on ballot sorting system purchase Monday. In today's standard speaker, the grant money still ultimately came from Pennsylvania taxpayers. This taxpayer money can still go to more worthwhile endeavors in our state. I highly doubt that. As Beth McBride reported to the standard speaker, the ballot sorting system is essential to allow the Bureau to finish processing ballots by midnight on election night. Somehow it was possible to conduct timely elections without a ballot sorting machine in the past. What could have possibly changed about elections that would make a machine that sorts ballots necessary? Interestingly, on LuzerneCounty.org, tonight's meeting is marked to be on Tuesday, August 29th at 4 p.m. While the standard speaker reported that is Monday, August 29th at 5 p.m. The factual errors regarding the day of the week and time of the meeting present on one or both of these sources leads me to believe that the individuals who released the erroneous information do not want the public to be able to comment on this proposed purchase, perhaps so they can have a proposal approved quickly without public knowledge. If such individuals could confound county residents about basic information regarding a meeting date, couldn't they do the same with the ballots the proposed system sorted? I am certain many others in the county would agree with me that such an expensive system that could potentially inhibit the fairness of future elections is not needed or wanted. Luzerne County Council, I implore you again, do not vote for this egregious proposal. Do not purchase the ballot sorting system. Next one, Cynthia Howe, Sugarloaf. I ask that this email comment be entered into part of tonight's session. I ask that council not pass a resolution authorizing the county manager to execute a contract with Runback Election Services for the purchase of a mail ballot sorting system and 5-year licensing and service agreement. This is reckless and irresponsible use of county funds, particularly since the grant is conditional and not guaranteed. There's also a liability since this major purchase was not put out to bid to other contractors. There are better, more fiscally responsible options for the citizens of Luzerne County. Next one, Marianne Polidoro, Drums. Ladies and gentlemen of Luzerne County Council, please vote against the buying of the ballot scanner. I'm afraid the propriety software is a risk to my vote. It is too soon before the November election to change the way mail-in ballots are counted. If you need to hire more people. Next, I oppose such a purchase at this time, not sure of reliability. Cam Zola, Luzerne County resident. Honorable members of the Luzerne County Council, this one's from Frank Polidoro, medical doctor, Drums, Pennsylvania. Please vote against the ballot scanner. This is an agenda item for this evening, August 22nd, 2022 special meeting of Luzerne County Council. Ask yourselves why this scanner is being purchased by the newly appointed Assistant Head of the Election Bureau. Does this have anything to do with the PA Department of State changing the voter registration form on August 19th, 2022 to include a request for a mail-in ballot on the same form used to register to vote? Why was there no vote by the Board of Elections regarding the purchase? Why is such an expensive item not being bid in violation of laws to the contrary? There are machines available at 1/10 of the cost. Why have such machines cost less in Texas? Why less for Lancaster and Lehigh counties? There is no grant money as yet guaranteed for the purchase of a ballot scanner. Will this be like the Dominion machines where only a portion was given to the county by the governor and the rest had to be financed? What are the problems with this scanner? I understand that it has a history of shredding ballots. Is PA Act 88 signed into law on July 21st, 2022, which wants mail-in ballots to be counted by midnight on election day? The excuse used for rushing this purchase? Wouldn't the use of temporary workers be less expensive? In the past, Luzerne County had no problem with getting the results in a timely manner. Most importantly, like Dominion, Runbeck uses proprietary software, which means that our elected officials would have no way to independently checking whether an election has been manipulated. They would be compelled to trust the company. No election process should ever involve proprietary software. It takes away the trust of the electorate. It could be used to destroy the integrity of elections. Also, it's my understanding that these machines have the capability of ballot replication software, like fractional vote tallies and broadcasting results out of the county before they are tabulated. This has no place in free elections. Please vote against using the machines to count votes in Luzerne County. There are too many problems and potential problems. This is Donna DePrisco, Hazleton. I, Donna DePrisco, Hazleton, PA, Luzerne County, am opposed to the purchase of the rollback ballot sorting system and licensing agreement currently under consideration by council. I'm also against the purchase due to cost factors. Any such purchase should be on a bid basis. It has been reported these machines have malfunctioning issues. This alone should raise concern. It seems like the purchase is being rushed. Why? Council should vote, consider hiring staff to do physical counting. I must say council should vote no. Next one, Ed Kimmel, Butler Township. With regard to the purchase of the Runbeck mail sorting system and 5-year licensing and service agreement for the sum of $491,000, I think this proposal is outrageous. Why all of a sudden is this such a rush to judgment without proper vetting of the performance of the system? With little research, I found the system has issues with shredding ballots, breakdowns, and rejected in other municipalities around the county. Also, despite what we found printed in the local newspaper, there are other reliable and more fiscally responsible purchases available. Why is council not looking into other options? Why is this system cheaper for other regional municipalities? I believe it's time for a more conservative and responsible look at these options, as well as the outrageous price tag. Where are the conservative and unbiased views that the people of this county elected? It's time to get your pencils out, sharpen them real good, and come up with a better plan. Next is from Arlene Stagg from Conyngham. Dear ones, please do not purchase or lease the 500,000 scanning machine for the scanning mail-in ballots. Hire temporary workers instead. Last one, Claudia Glennon, Luzerne County resident. That's all it says. Okay. Dear County Council members, I'm writing to support the purchase of the Runbeck ballot sorting machine. The Election Bureau has been researching and discussing this for the past year and has certainly completed their due diligence. Tritex machine was eliminated early on as not fit for the needs of Luzerne County and is not in use in any other Pennsylvania counties, thus no proven ability to connect, interact with the state share system. Blue Crest is designed for more larger metropolitan areas and affiliated with Election IQ. EIQ are the ballot vendors of the county, had to cancel their contract with due to poor product and customer service. The ballot sorting machine affords an extra level of scrutiny for which community members have been requesting and will allow county employees to do their jobs without having to double up during elections while meeting the state ballot process. One more hand up, Marianne Lawhon. Marianne? You're muted. She's on the phone. Ms. Lawhon, Marianne? She's still muted. She's not on the phone. Phone star six. That's her computer. Okay. No other members of the public wish to speak. We'll move on to agenda item number 1. We have a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the county manager to execute a contract with Runbeck Election Services for the purchase of a mail ballot sorting system and 5-year licensing and service agreement. A second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. McDermott, second by Mr. Perry.
On the question.
Mhm.
Ms. McBride, Can we ask her a couple questions?
Yeah. Really quick, I want to check too. Mr. Robertson, are you on?
So you would only be able to talk by allowing everybody to talk all at once or raise his hand.
You could let them all talk.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Thank you, Mr. Robertson. Okay, I just wanted
Okay.
you on it.
Yes,
But
I'm here
Mr.
if you need
Lombardo
me.
hasn't. Thank you. Go ahead.
I just, Ms. McBride, do you want to just comment on some of the comments that were made during public comment and some of the questions that were asked over the course of the last few days? And see if you can dispel any of that or confirm any of that. And I have a couple other questions too, but if you just want to start off with some of those.
So, excuse me, the Bureau brought the run-back sorting system to council because it remains the only system suited for our needs. The TriTech system that was mentioned is not something that the Bureau wishes to experiment with for the sake of saving money. And while I appreciate the diligence in trying to secure the most appropriate system for the Bureau really can't afford to take a risk on a system that hasn't been used in Pennsylvania yet. The other system that was brought forth also isn't an option because the county has worked with that company in the past and did not have a pleasant experience with them, to say the least. The Bureau has two separate processes involving elections, and I think it's important to distinguish between them. This system does not count votes. The only purpose of this system is to ensure that voters get credit in the SURE system. There is a pre-canvassing and canvassing portion of our elections. This will help with the actual pre-canvassing portion of our election. Again, it is not a vote tabulator. It does not count votes. In terms of, I did write down some of the other questions. We are not using county funds for this purchase. The grant money is scheduled to be deposited into our account by the end of this week. The Board of Elections was earlier informed and consulted at their meeting this past week, and the majority of the board was supportive during that meeting, and that's public record. There were a couple of suggestions that we use staff or other employees to help us with this process. And unfortunately, that's just not something that's feasible. Given the state of the job market, our excessive reliance on county departments, and how many other moving parts we have in our pre-canvassing process at the Bureau, I do not feel comfortable solely relying on our team to accomplish this goal of hand scanning ballots into our system. We can hire 40 employees, say, with the grant money. But the fact doesn't change that we only have 6 short terminals in our office. So again, we could hire 40 employees, but it's not really going to do us any good if we only have the 6 terminals and 6 scanners. So right now, just to give you an idea of that process, we are currently expected to receive maybe 18,000 mail-in ballots, which means our staff, county employees, seasonal employees, if we're lucky enough to get them, would literally have to hand scan each of those ballots. And because we are anticipating this grant money, that is not a risk that I'm willing to take. If it came to it and we couldn't purchase the machine, I would recommend turning the grant money back into the state. Because again, that's just not something that I feel comfortable with. I don't know if there are any other more specific questions that I could answer.
Yeah, well, just to touch on that last point,
Sure.
I sort of don't understand the thought process of having to turn the grant money back into the state if we don't purchase this machine. I mean, we could, I would assume that we could probably, use it if we want to purchase more SURE terminals. I don't know what the process is for that or anything, but can you go into that and why you think that would just be the next best option if we don't purchase the machine itself?
Frankly, this is the only, purchasing the machine is the only way that I see that we can keep the grant money. We cannot purchase SURE terminals. They are something that's issued from the state. And just to give you a rough idea, a couple of other counties have requested new terminals about 2 years ago, and they have yet to receive them. I touched on it a little bit before, but we also have major issues with we call them binkers, our little scanning system. Not all of them work. So sometimes we have 6 that work. Sometimes we have 4 that work. So the option to purchase that equipment really isn't an option for us.
Mr. Robertson, do you agree with Ms. McBride that we'd have to, that you think we should send the grant money back if we don't purchase the machine?
Ma'am, the way I understand the grant, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The way I've read it, I believe the way our attorneys, solicitors' offices read it, and I believe that involves several attorneys, just not one. If we don't execute the money and have the elections read by 12:01 on the day following the election, we violate terms, if you will, of the agreement. And given what I've seen and given out in Colorado researching this and giving your all's invitation to come here and avoid the graft and corruption and the same old group who you hear from all the time, which it's fine. I thought it was our charter to try to bring you something new and unique. Certainly not something that everyone would agree with. But there doesn't appear to be any way in the world that I can see from those who have worked inside the back office of the elections here in Luzerne County. And there's a very few who have told me you can't get there from here by 12:01. So I've heard the term reputational factor involved several times by several people, and I got it. You can be out wherever you are and read all that. And that's exactly why it seemed to me that the opportunity to bring technology that is paid for by the state, and yes, it is taxpayer dollars. There's no question of that. But it's not Lucerne general funds, and that will go back into the election pot and use somewhere else outside Lucerne, that if we could find a way to move forward, do it correctly, using technology within the terms and conditions that the state has said you can have this money. And one gentleman sort of referred to it as I think he used the term bribe. I wouldn't differ with that per se, but that's the conditions. And while we would love to hire 40 or 50 or 60 people, yes, and keep the money inside, those who have worked here before says we've never done it before. And again, regardless of how many people you put up front, if you've only got 6 terminals to go to in the back, it will only go at the pace it will go. So it's my understanding, I would not want to drag Lucerne's reputational issues even deeper by taking a grant, having a high confidence level that we couldn't execute the grant in the terms and the conditions that the state had, and whether we refund a portion, whether we refund it all. I believe the advice that I give you, and you'll travel down the path you decide, is if we can't do it and do it right, why would we want to take the money? So, Ms. McBride, you and Mr. Skeen have seen it. Am I correct in saying the conditions of this grant you're supposed to be done by 12:01 the day after?
Yes, that's correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
So is this more expensive? Yes. The challenge, I think, council, before you, and the issues that I articulated in this note, seems to be classic roles and responsibilities. And in the 2.5 months I've been here, it's come up day and day after. You have a large group of very interested and passionate citizens. They all seem to have read the law to their interpretation. But you have before you had it last night, you have it now, what your solicitor and his office opined on roles and responsibilities. The board was consulted. They were sent it. I sat in on that board, and we've heard from one of them who are opposed. I got it, but The other four, as far as I know, I haven't heard one way or another. Would we have liked to have brought this forward 6 months ago? There wasn't a grant 6 months ago. So all of those factors are playing into the conditions is if we don't get the money, if you vote it down, I respect that's your vote and that's the way we'll proceed. But we will continue to do business as we've done that. And it seemed to me that one of the reasons you asked me to be here is to start to work on those things as it relates to our history and our past. And one of them is we've got to start embracing, in my opinion, and then I'll be quiet, the tens and 20 and 30 thousands of people who aren't on the other end of the phone and didn't have the same Google search, and they're great people by no stretch. We need to listen to them, but we're not hearing from all of them. And this might be an opportunity at de minimis cost to this county to try to move us forward with elections. If it doesn't go that way, we'll find another way to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. Councilor Robertson, questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to finish it real quick. And I know that, anything that I say is just going to be boiled down to the word yes or no in a couple of minutes. So I'm not really going to bloviate too much, but I just want to ask, my two concerns were initially about the price of the machine. And, I know that there's been some other numbers that have been floating around about price of other machines being a lot less. I truthfully haven't looked at any of those documents because I feel that the way that they were solicited was inappropriate. So I didn't look at any of those other machines. But I think that I've had my answer to my question just by looking at the information in front of me right here that, including the licensing agreement, that is why the price is $490,500. And that leads me into my second question. I would feel more comfortable voting for this if there was a stipulation in the contract where, this would be maybe a 1-year type of contract, if we could possibly negotiate that. And, the points that were made about the election potentially turning out where Act 77 will be abolished are correct. And I do hold those same concerns. And that would be another reason why I wouldn't necessarily be for voting for the machine. So do you think that there's a possibility we can somehow negotiate that into our contract? I know that is the representative on the phone here from.
He's actually here if you have more contract specific questions.
Yeah, those are my two concerns.
Okay, and one other thing I did want to add. Regardless of whether or not we take the grant money or are able to take the grant money, we're going to need seasonal employees. And if that can't come out of grant money, then we're going to have to come in front of council for a budget amendment. So I would just keep that in mind as well. Peter, do you want to come up?
Sure.
Does anybody else have questions for Mr. Fry before she leaves the podium?
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about the grant itself? If we don't accept the money this year, or if we have to send it back, what happens next year? Are we eligible to get it next year or the year after?
So it depends on the context. There's nothing specific in the legislation that says, if we don't take it this year, then we're ineligible to apply next year. But if something happened and we weren't able to meet that deadline set in Act 88, then we would need to send the remaining funds back and we would be ineligible for the grant next year.
So if we don't get it this year, we don't get it next year.
The guidance from the state isn't clear on that. It's just in terms of actually applying for the grant. If we did something wrong on our end, then we would be ineligible. But in terms of if we have to apply this year to be eligible for next year, the guidance from the state isn't clear on that. But I would add that all but 4 counties in Pennsylvania have accepted the grant money.
What other counties are using this machine right now or are going to use this machine? And is this something that you're definitely set on purchasing, or are you going to go see it in person before that decision is made?
So I've spoken with Dauphin County, who also has the machine. They have had it for, I'm not sure how long now, but they've had it through election cycles. And they are very happy with the purchase and can't recommend it enough. And they're comparable with our size of a county. There are some other counties that are interested in purchasing it. It's not extremely popular in Pennsylvania simply because of the cost. So being that counties now have the election integrity grant. It's opening them up to purchase this machine, and there are quite a few counties in line to hopefully purchase it. Lackawanna is interested, Pike, Adams County, Lehigh County, and Lancaster County. And their prices will be a little bit different because of the number of registered voters that they have. And Pete from Runback could speak to that a little bit more, but it's widely used across the country as well.
Mr. Walden?
I just have a quick question. Right. So would you please again state the reasons for not putting out our?
So the only other comparable system that we would be able to use is from the company Election IQ. And the Bureau had a less than pleasurable experience with them.
So that's a reason for not putting out our.
It's the reason for not putting out a bid, because.
So that means I'm ineligible because you had a bad relationship.
So when you go out for bid, you go with the lowest, most responsible bidder. And that company would not be deemed responsible in Luzerne County's eyes, because.
Okay, and then the reason for the other companies is because they don't deal with the state of Pennsylvania.
Yes, so they're not integrated with the shore system currently. And frankly, I don't want Luzerne County to be the test site for a system like this.
Well, somebody would have to be the first one if they're ever going to start.
Sure, but I don't want Luzerne County to do that. I think
So
the
just
voters.
because you don't feel comfortable with it, you don't want to look up the RFP.
No, that's not correct.
So I reached out to Blue Press, I reached out to TriTech, I spoke to Harris County, Texas. I understand that Runback is kind of a broker. They seek somebody that makes this machine, they step between it, their original business was making ballots. No. I'm bothered by the fact that you sat at the last meeting and you were a little fictitious in the fact that when you answered your question about why you didn't put out for an RFP, your answer was that they were the only company that can accommodate. That was not true, because when I talked to Blue Crest, there are 6 counties in Pennsylvania operating the insure system. So you misled us with the state. Just want you to know that you go back and watch the tape. So with TriTech, I questioned him and I said, what would be the issue of connecting to the insure system? He said, up and running in 2 to 4 hours. He said, you understand, which I don't know anything about, so I'm going to admit that, but I learned a lot in the last 3 days calling around. Pennsylvania insure system is a database. Agree with that?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so all we're going to be doing is using a vehicle to connect to the database. It's not programmed, it's nothing high tech from what I understand, and he guarantees you can do it. So I said, well, make me feel a little more comfortable about your ability for technology. He said, well, if it helps you, I have my machines in the Pentagon sorting their mail, and the technology I have for that can even check for anthrax. Pretty impressive, right? Now he follows that up with, he said, I give you a deal that you can't refuse. He said, hey, you want to do that machine for 1 year, $42,000. You're not happy with it at the end of 1 year, we'll take it back. Or if the mail-in ballots change and there's not a big use for it, he said, I'd be more than happy to either take it back or retrofit it for your existing mail in Luzerne County. So I think that was a pretty generous offer. But I don't think it's proper for us to sit here and be told a story about an RFP when there's another company out there. Just because somebody may have had a bad moment with them, that's not a reason to negate the process. I think it should be followed. If we're going to do that for one item, we better do it for all the rest. And I'm sure that if we were to get this company and not put it out for an RFP, I'm sure there's going to be some conversations there. So I just want to put that out there.
Just for clarification, Mr. Lescavage, it wasn't just Bureau employees being upset with the service of this company. The Office of Law had to step in. So that's why obviously we would not want to go with a company where our attorneys had to step in and speak with them because of the quality of service that we were
What I would
getting.
like to see is the emails and the correspondence back and forth in regard.
I'm sure if you discuss that with the Office of Law, you could.
Just like I didn't take anybody's word. I disagree with Mr. Robertson. I've heard him say it a couple times about Google. I'll be the first one to tell you, I go home at night after some of these meetings, I'll Google for 2 hours. It's the only way I can learn some things I'm not familiar with. But in addition to that, you know what I do? I Google their phone number. I call. first, I don't think anybody.
Mr. Scavenge, is this a question for Ms. McBride? Or we just, if we're just scolding her, we need to recess for a 6 o'clock meeting. Can I have a motion, please? For a recess, there's a 6 o'clock ABC meeting, and we.
Motion for recess.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, meetings recessed. Until after the ABCs, or can we, how long can a recess last?
As long as you want it to last. Flush protection authority used to have a recess, not so the meeting next month.
They're on a time schedule, so I would say like 7:15. Is that okay with everybody?
Okay, recess until after the ABC meeting.
Yes. Huh? Could be.
Ms. Radel, this is Brian Thornton. Ms. Radel, this is
Recording
Brian
stopped.
What's
Ms.
that,
Radel.
Mr. Thornton?
I'm just
Yeah.
going to state, if you're going to recess the meeting, all of the public needs to know what time to get back on. Just
That's
so,
what we're doing now.
yeah, we need to state a time, not just say after the meeting. Thank you.
That's what we're trying to figure it out, Mr. Thornton. Give me a moment.
I don't think that this is gonna take that long. I would say 7:30 at the latest.
Okay, 7:30.
Why didn't we make it 7:45? We could do something with flexibility.
Okay, 7:45.
Identify a specific time.
Yeah, 7:45 is fine. for
No,
me. I-
no. Let's say 7:30 because we can't start early, but we could start late. So 7:30. Sorry.
That's okay.
This
Nope,
way, if we
that's-
start at
Yep,
7:45, we'll
that's
still
fine.
be here.
Yep.
But
No,
if
that's
you're
fine.
done
No
early.
problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll get out of your way.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not moving. All right. Just interviews. Yeah, there's nothing else. No, I don't think. No, I don't. think so. We just have to ask these questions. So.
There was a motion and a second. Did the body vote on the recess?
Yeah.
What was that?
Thank you. I didn't hear vote. Thank you.
I did. I said all in favor.
Yeah, go ahead. Go. That's fine. Yeah, I'm actually going. ABC meeting is 2 minutes. Here.
We're doing it.
Yeah,
You want it on-
that's fine. Just, I'm not moving, so. Just.
Do you want anything to eat?
No. I'm
Sharon,
okay.
do you want anything? Well, that's all right. Like, you can-